You guys all know that we're fans of the Joe Rogan podcast, especially after he had Crystal and I on his show. And one of the guests that actually came shortly after was comedian Andrew Schulz. He was talking about the influence of corporations and the way that they can influence comedy in our national environment, and how by being independent that he is able to call things out which are funny on both sides. I thought it was a really interesting discussion, so I asked him to come here. And comedian Andrew Schulz, he joins me now via Zoom for a little bit more on this. Andrew, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew, I just wanted you to be able to expand a little bit on that. One of the things that you struck when you said is, like, you know, you can predict kind of like a Trevor Noah or a Seth Meyers monologue before it even happens. And not to disparage them, you know, their work is fine, but that there are a lot of other things in our society which are funny. And so whenever these things are funny, to be able to call them out, you know, these corporate influence actually keeps down some of our discourse. Just what do you think about that?
I would give you pushback on Seth Meyers being funny. He's absolutely awful. It's an embarrassment. But yes, I think that like Trevor definitely has like a lens that he's looking at the world through, and that lens obviously reflects the institution that he's part of. You know, I mean, and I'm sure it's probably like maybe a little bit more liberal leaning lens. That's why I liked you guys, and that's why I was going to do this show. I mean, I hate doing interviews with you. But I like that you guys kind of had some balance. You guys are having conversation. You're not just trying to tear people apart. You know, I think that most of us are in the middle. So, yeah, that was our prediction. Like, when we just started creating these pieces, we're like, look, late night is so skewed, and I already know what they're going to say before. Even though there's a lot of great work. Like, John Oliver's team does, like, an insane amount of research. And I watch his pieces, and I'm like, you're just presenting this information in a way where, like, I don't know, like, white women who watch HBO on the Upper East Side of Manhattan will love it, but, you know, half of the country is just going to go, this is miserable. What's going on here? Like,
right.
Why are you alienating me for the sake of a joke that really doesn't even matter for your piece? Like, you can write these pieces. This is what we do. We like write pieces, and I hope that there are people on each side that try to tear it apart. Like, that's my challenge. I want both of you to come in here and tear it apart. See if you can.
Well, I mean, that's certainly something that we try to do here, Andrew. I appreciate that. And I guess one of the things that struck me about your comedy is, I mean, I think you said on Joe Rogan's podcast you were a supporter of Bernie Sanders, but like, I'll watch your stuff and it's going after Biden, going after Trump, going after Fauci, going after so many of these other things. Go ahead.
For the record, I don't really know anything about Bernie's politics. Like, everything that, like, I'm rich, so everything about Bernie kind of hurts me. I just thought he was an authentic guy. And I thought that he wanted to help instead of win. And I'm drawn to people who actually want to help, right? It seems like everybody just wants to win, you know? And so I was just like, yeah, I trust that guy. I just trust a guy who actually wants to do what he believes is good. And I think once he gets in office, there'll be enough people around him to kind of like protect the American system. I don't think we're going to fall into communism because of Bernie Sanders, you know? But yeah, so just for me, it's just like, who can you trust? Who seems authentic, and not just who's trying to sell me a dream. You know, I do a podcast with this guy, Charlemagne. You probably know him, Charlemagne the God. And
we do.
I mean, he's great, but he always say, you know, it's dream selling season. And I don't really want to be sold a dream. You know, I want to be told, you know, what your version of the truth is.
And so, Andrew, with your time in the industry, and, you know, now you're very successful and an independent comedian, and you have no real pressure from outside the system. But when you were coming up, how did you feel that pressure to kind of be politically correct within the strictures of what there was whenever you were trying to come up? And what impact does that have on our comedy today as a culture?
I think that I was just a pain in the ass to people that I work with, because I wasn't willing to sacrifice what I thought was funny or my opinion for, you know, to get on the TV show or do those things, which is why, like, I never had any traditional success in the stand-up realm, you know, anywhere where, like, my stand-up existed, they weren't really giving me a shot. And then I basically said, well, this is funny, and I know people see it as funny because I perform in front of people every single night and they laugh. So this is what actually is funny. And all the stand-up shows on TV are failing, so that must not be funny. I must be onto something. So I just put my content out on YouTube and Instagram. I just started cutting it into like little clips and creating more like digestible forms of it. This is a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And they just started going viral and like blowing up, and I just got this massive career. And I went on Rogan, God bless Rogan, and I talked about the formula and basically what we were doing and creating all these different ways where you could like access comedy, all these little portals, and not giving people an hour to consume, but rather giving them 3 minutes to consume, and creating this kind of like snooze effect with your comedy where someone gets to decide if they want to keep on watching. And I just kind of like blew up from it, and then all of a sudden, all the networks that said no to me just copied my model, and they started putting out their content just like that. And then all the comics, which I told to do it this way, I was like, yo, comics, go out there and do it. Go make your money. I don't want to make money off comics. I want comics to have the best opportunity to like create a career for themselves and their family. So it was just great to see that revolution start to happen. And now I think you see it in a lot of different things. Even your guys' shows. I was looking at you guys are cutting up your stuff and you're making it digestible. Before we did this, I was watching your guys' take on Jenna Marbles.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That didn't exist before, like.
Yeah, absolutely.
You would have to wait.
Yeah, and that was the thing, that's the last question I have for you, is how do you think this is going to affect comedy at large? Because it's one of the things we don't get to talk as much here as we should comedy, but you and Joe and many of these others have pioneered this entire new space, which, as you say, that the networks are they're like, well, how do we get a piece of this and all of that? What do you think the future is like for your industry?
In order for the networks to compete, they're going to have to let us do what we want, because Joe just proved that. I think that was the breaking point. Like right now we're in the streaming wars, and the different streaming, apps and stuff are going to fight for, that space. But, Joe getting that massive Spotify deal, that's a company going, we don't care what people say about you. We don't care if people are going to try to cancel you. We're going to put our money behind you because we believe you have the people. And at the end of the day, we're all fighting for eyeballs. So a lot of these, late night shows have no eyeballs. So who are they advertising to? Eventually, the advertisers start to pull the plug. Like we probably make more money on like my Patreon for Flagrant 2 podcast, than I don't know, than these guys would probably charge for ads on some of their shows. I mean, it's crazy the amount of viewers for a late night show, how small it is. Like I'll get more viewers on a YouTube video once a week than Jimmy Fallon will get on his actual TV show. It's just an insane time. Like imagine that. Who am I? I got two other guys working with me, and we're doing bigger numbers than the Tonight Show. Get out of here. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. It is amazing. It's a revolution in our media. So, Andrew, thanks for joining us, man. It's a really great conversation. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you later. All right, we'll have more Rising for you after this.